Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grateful Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing conversation around death, dying, grief, mental health, trauma, and all the things that are mixed in with there, and from some exciting people with some amazing stories that are doing some amazing things out here. So now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. Head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And please put your questions and comments in the comment section, and we'll be sure to answer those as we go. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Now, without further ado, I'm bringing on my next guest. Guys, help me welcome Sylvia to the show. Sylvia, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this because we had such a great conversation earlier this week.
I know. I've been looking forward to it. I was like, Sylvia, today we're gonna see where this conversation takes us, and we're gonna have a great time. And Lincoln, thank you for tuning in today, brother. And as I said before, if you have any questions or comments, you already know, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them. Now, before we get started, Sylvia, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yeah, so I was born in Costa Rica, born and raised in Costa Rica. Born as a woman, and all of that has to do with being a woman in a Latin American country. I had I would say a pretty good childhood. I was born with a medical condition, and I want to start here because I didn't mention this the last time we spoke, but I was born with a medical condition. And out of that, a lot of trauma came in because the first 3 years of my life, basically, I was in and out of hospitals and doctors, and they didn't know what I had. It was crazy. And the reason why I say this is because it has to do with what I'm going to share now. Long story short, they did a big surgery on me. I'm okay. It's all good now. However, I decided to study psychology, and while I was in university, something else happened in my life, something in my family. It was a big shift. It was a big situation that happened. And that, I think it just took everything that I had been storing. It took it out. It just bubbled out. And I started having panic attacks. I didn't know what it was. And people are surprised to hear that I was studying psychology and I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea because we were studying mostly depression and other things. Panic attacks was not a thing back then. It wasn't as strong as it is right now, so well known. So it took me a moment to realize what was happening. And then I got to the point where I asked myself, either I am the worst psychologist in the world because I'm here at my home, I can't leave, I can't go to the supermarket like a normal person, I can't get on a bus, I can't even go to visit my mom, and I wasn't like that before. Either I'm the worst psychologist ever, or I have to do something with these two things. I have to do something with the experience I'm going through and all the knowledge that I'm getting. And so that's what I did. I chose the second one. I chose to not be the worst psychologist. I chose to use it. And ever since, panic attacks and anxiety has been my banner. It has been almost like my flag, so to speak. And I tell people now it's something that I'm not ashamed to be associated with. It was very hard when I was going through that, the judgment and the shame and all of that. Now I see it as my greatest gift and my biggest teacher. So I'm okay being the panic attack lady. And I told you in our previous conversation, I would go through that again if I had to, just to become the person I am. So that's a summary basically of of my life and what brought me here with you.
Now, see, I love that. I love the fact that you're using it in a way to help so many other people out there that may be experiencing, severe panic attacks and things like that, maybe going through the judgments, maybe not understanding why these things are happening, right? Now, I have a theory. But before I put that theory out there, explain to the audience, what may cause those panic attacks to come about.
So I believe personally it's a mix of different things. It's not just one thing.
Mhm.
And that's why I gave a little bit of my background in terms of, all the medical condition that I had and the hospitals and all the trauma that was involved there, because I believe that there is um, a hereditary component, a genetic component, yes, but it's not just that. It's also experiences, especially in your early childhood,
Mhm.
traumas in your early childhood. And if you didn't have the tools, you didn't have the resources, you didn't have the people to support you going through those, and then you can add to that stress, you can add to that changes in your hormones. So people, for example, who are going through a pregnancy right now, they come to me and they say, I don't get it. This should be the best moment in my life. I'm gonna bring a baby into this world, and the hormones are making a little mess in their bodies. So it could be all these things together, and on top of that, if you have something that basically triggers, let's call it a traumatic incident or a lot of stress, or you're not aligned with your essence, then all of that I call, like, imagine like a glass or a soup, right? It has all those ingredients in, and if on top of that you start to boil it, boom, you get panic attacks. That's the way I like to teach it. So, because I'm very visual, so I like to see the soup boiling and tell people, like, all of this, you put all of that in there, and it's boiling right now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you put it out there like that because that was something that I was thinking about, right? Because being a male in this field, I do, associate a lot of those things with grief and trauma, unresolved trauma, right? People, things that people carry around with us. And I often see it as a trauma response, right? I see people when they go out into society, and they may have been abused when they were a child, right? Or maybe they have been bullied or something in school, or maybe by their own family members. I see, I watch people because I'm very observant, right? I want to know, how can I be effective when I step into your space with you, right? How can I respect that, but also, how can I help guide you past, through, not past, but actually through what you're experiencing at that moment. And what I find that, a lot of times, I think you and I talked about this one time before, a lot of times, if you sit with a person for long enough, they will take you back to those moments, right? And there it's something to be um, very observant of, because just because they're in your presence rate at that moment, mentally, they're not all, they're not there. They're at a time where, what I'm saying, these things have happened and they're having that experience again, right? And so that was my theory. That was my theory. So you really just put that in there, and I was like, wow, like this just pretty much answered that question. But how can an individual work through those panics? When those moments start to, what are some telltale? Well, I guess that's what my question. What are some telltale signs that is signs that is going to that is about to happen? I know we have emotionally support animals nowadays, right? That can detect those things within you, right? So, what are some telltale signs that people can look out for themselves to be aware of?
This is such an important question because this is part of the healing
Hmm.
of panic attacks, and also the balancing of anxiety. Um, and then there's a reason why I call it balancing anxiety. We can get into that later, but this is the point. This is exactly the point, because in the beginning, when you don't know, or if you don't know what's happening to you, our brains are wired in a way that it's for survival, which
Right.
is
Right.
Great, right? It's doing its job, and I'm glad that it's doing its job. When people have these experiences, I tell them your smoke alarm, your fire alarm is working very good. So that's good news, right? So when we don't know what is happening, the alarm goes off, and then we think this is really happening. I'm really dying, or something dangerous is really happening to me, and then the panic attack just grows and becomes this very uncomfortable thing. And the thing is that the moment that you start to be more aware and recognize in yourself what are the steps that came before the panic attacks, or what are the signals, as you said, what are the signals in your body that are letting you know, okay, the water's about to boil and this is going to get crazy here, right? The more you can do that, the more you can de-escalate the panic attack. And so this is very important what you're saying. And there is not a definitive answer. There is nothing that I can tell you like, this is it, Tony. When you feel your pinky, that's when you're going to have a panic attack, because it's different for every person. That's why this is a personal journey. It's a growth even. I see it as a very spiritual and personal growth journey, because it almost makes you not make, I don't want to say make, but it's an opportunity to connect with yourself and get to know you. And I know it's a bit extreme. Yes, it would be better if we would take, the path with the lilies and the roses, but well, some of us have to go through the rocks. And this is a way for us to get to know us better, our body better. So in my case, for example, I could feel in my body the little signals, let's call it symptoms. So it could be, some sort of tremor, or I was feeling restless. I was having certain thoughts that were not very positive, very healthy. I could feel myself weird. And people who are watching that have had this happen, I know you understand what I say. It's just weird. There's no way or word to put it like this is exactly how I'm feeling. It's just weird. It's like I don't feel like myself. I feel weird. There's something off. And that was sometimes the step before the panic attack. So again, my invitation is that each person should go inside and try to identify what are those signals, what are those symptoms that are letting you know something not right. And if you don't do something, we're going to let you know by making this big mess, basically.
Right. There was as you were speaking, I started being reminded of a couple people that I knew who struggled with panic attacks, right? Very severe panic attacks, where they would start screaming and have to go, they would freeze up. It's like a flight or fright, right? You know what I'm saying? They would freeze up, and everything inside of them would tell them, I have to defend myself, right? And sometimes I would just look at them and go, look, it's okay, breathe, right? And I've seen some of them to the point to where they had to have like a paper bag to breathe into to calm themselves down, right? And I've seen people who have to have medication in order to help balance out themselves and things like that, right? And I would tell you, after seeing someone going through that, if you're not prepared for it, it can scare the living daylights out of you, right? Now, in your experience, right, in helping people doing that, what are some of the steps that you would recommend people, what are some of the unconventional steps that you can recommend to people that may not, may not know?
Wow, this is such a good question. Unconventional methods to me is grabbing a pillow, and this is something that I was doing when I was having my worst panic attacks. Grabbing a pillow and talking to the pillow like you're talking to a toddler, like you're talking to a 5-year-old or a dog or a cat if you don't like kids. That is honestly one of the most powerful things to do, and it's not really talked about a lot. The reason why I do this and I talk about this is because I believe that the part of you that gets scared, it's not the you that is 40-year-old, 30, 40, 20, 50 years old. The part of you that gets scared, it's a part of you that is 5, 6, 7, 8. The part of you that went through the situation that we were talking about, the grief, the trauma, the abuse, the rape, the situation that it was like the wound. Let's call it the wound. And so it goes back, basically you go back to that age, and that's the part of you that was never resolved, like you said. And so it's living in that time. So in my case, that 3-year-old that went through all those things, sometimes alone. I had to go through certain medical exams alone. That 3-year-old still lives as a 3-year-old back in the 80s, going through that experience, right? And so sometimes it doesn't make sense to people. Why am I screaming like this? Like you said, why am I going crazy like this? I'm an adult. I have a job. I just went on a trip to this place. I just did this. I make this amount of money, blah, blah, blah. It's because it's not really you. It's that part of you that is basically frozen in time and still believes that you are in danger. So that's an unconventional method. There's another one, which is using cold. So if you can put like something cold, ice cubes or very cold water in your face, back of your neck, that also just basically resets your nervous system and engages the vagus nerve. Again, this is a whole other conversation, but basically it's like pressing the reset button on your computer, just woof, your system goes into reboot. And they're very effective. They're very effective, actually. So, but going back to something that you said, if I may, it is true that a lot of people don't know about this and they've never experienced it. And I'm so happy that some of you have not. But there is the possibility that a lot of us are going to experience a little bit of panic or a lot of panic. And so it's good to be informed about these things, because the worst thing that someone can do is to get scared as a companion. And I think you mentioned something about that, right? If you've never seen it, you go, whoa, this person is about to die or something is really wrong, right? But if you remain calm, that's the best thing you can do for someone else who's going through anxiety or panic or grief, right? And it's one of the most beautiful things. It's that our brains are wired for connection. Our brains are wired for social interaction and connection with not only humans, but humanity, nature and animals. So it is so healing to have someone next to you in a moment of panic or a moment of grief, just to hold your hand. And that's enough. You don't have to do a lot, really, when someone is going through a panic attack. Just hold their hand and tell them, I'm here. And that's it. And maybe you know this about, grief. Sometimes there's nothing to say. You can't say anything to the person because what is there to say? Pain is pain. You can't say anything to take the pain away. Sometimes it's just say to the person, I'm here. I'm just here.
Yeah. It's being in that space with people, right? And one of the things that I advocate when people are asking how to hold that space, I say, become a visitor. Visit with that person in their space. You don't need to talk, and not unless let them guide the conversation, right? Because what you don't want to do, you don't want to make it about you. You always want to keep the attention towards that individual. Let them be seen. Let them be heard. Let them know that what they're feeling is validated, right? And sometimes it's okay to go and wash the dishes for them. Go do that laundry for them. but keep them in a calm state, right? Let them do what they need to do, because in a lot of ways, instinctively, our bodies will tell us what to do, right? Instead of trying to fix it or any, no, let them be what they need to be. Your presence is enough, right? If they ask you, oh, what do you think? You go, hey, I don't really know what to think, but you tell me what you need, right? So you're putting it back on them and saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. How dare you try to make this about me? I need this to be about you, right? Because you are important to me. I think we was talking the last time that we was talking. I mentioned what I started talking about Simon. I'm gonna slaughter his name, but Simon. I'm gonna leave it like that. He's a huge guy in the corporate field, very brilliant dude, and he was telling his friend that was going through a bout of depression. You know, um, called her and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she goes, "Well, I texted you, right? And I wasn't doing too well, and I didn't want to be a burden to you. That's why I didn't want to bother you too much." And he said he got mad. He goes, "How dare you deny me the privilege of being able to sit with you while you're going through your depression? Do you
Mm.
not think that I cared enough?" And her reply was, "I texted you." And he goes, "When? Oh, the other day? You mean these text messages look like every other one?" So what they did, and I do recommend this, I love this, right? He says, when a person is going through something, it takes 8 minutes.
Mm.
So instead of making every text just like every other one, make it known that, hey, I need 8 minutes of your time. So when you text that individual, say, "Hey, do you have 8 minutes?" That way, that's a automatic, what I'm saying, "Hey, let me stop everything that I'm doing because you are worth it, and let me give you that 8 minutes that you need of me," right?
Mm.
And I tell everybody that's going through something traumatic, or if you experience something overwhelming like anxiety or your panic attacks, or you're going through episodes of grief and trauma, you know, don't make your text messages like every other one. Have a word or a phrase to let them know that, hey, I really need you, right? And that way, that person, if that person cares about you, they are going to take that time, and regardless of what's going on, they're going to give you what you need, right? And I think that's very important that people are able to articulate that to one another, especially as human beings. We're built for connection, right? So in those moments, find those words to be able to let people know that you need that connection, right? And I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love this conversation because I want to go back to something you said that I absolutely believe in, and it's the body and our systems know how to heal.
Hmm.
We know how to heal. And I tell people, when you cut your finger, do you do something to like seal it, to like fix it? You don't do anything. The body does it itself. The body does what it needs to do, and
Hmm.
eventually it closes the wound. Our job is to create the conditions for the body to heal itself. And we're talking physically, and we're talking emotionally and spiritually here. Um, so, in the same way about grief that you talked about, same way with anxiety and panic, the best thing you can do for someone is just ask, what do you need?
Hmm.
What do you need right now? And if you can't tell me, and I say this to people, if you can't tell me, it's okay. Let me know when you know, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I was going through anxiety and panic, and I didn't know what I needed. I was in such a, my brain was going all over the place. It was crazy. Um, and so just having the person there saying, it's okay. You don't even need to know right now. I'm not going to put that burden also that you need
Hmm.
to know, right? You don't need to know right now, but tell me when you know. As soon as you know that you need something, let me know. And that, like you said, just creates that space for the wound to start healing. And do that to yourself as well. Allow yourself, give yourself the space to feel what you need to feel. And
Hmm.
that's sometimes the hardest thing, because obviously we don't want to feel the pain. We don't want to feel the panic. Who wants to feel panic? It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. And we talked about this on the last conversation, and I lost my best friend, and I lost two of my close cousins in the past 2 years, and I've lost an uncle who was a father figure to me, and I've lost a lot of people, and that was painful. But I have to say, the panic was also very painful. So we need to treat it in the same way that we treat a wound. It's just to keep it clean, to not mess with it a lot, and trust that it's doing what it needs to do. And if I have to feel the pain, it's part of the process. It is important to go through it. And the problem with panic is that it's so uncomfortable. There are no words really to describe it. And also with grief, that people, obviously, they try to bypass it. They try to do stuff to avoid it. They try to not feel this way. And so they avoid places, they avoid people, they avoid this, they avoid that. When the answer is to get to a point, help yourself to get to a point where you can be there and hold your pain and hold your feeling and stay there and stay there with all of it.
That's Trinity Boy gave Trinity Boy 12 said their condolences as you were speaking, about the losses and everything else. And I just want to remind everybody, hey, if you have any comments or questions for either myself or Sylvia, please put them in there. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. I know some of you that are tuning in right now may be experiencing panic attacks, may be going through something right now, and I just want to remind you that this is what this show is for. It's for us to be able to give you some tools to help you during those times. So, feel free to ask those questions, please. You know what I'm saying? And leave those comments in there as well. We love to be able to help you guys out in any way that we possibly can. And I know if I don't have, I may not have all the answers in this field because, you guys that know me know grief is my thing, right? And Sylvia's here. She has a whole new perspective on how to deal with panic attacks and all of these different things because she is known as the panic attack lady, right? You know what I'm saying? And she's overcome. She does some amazing work. So please feel free to ask those questions, right? We'll get to them and get them answered for you. Now you said something, Sylvia, and it's something that I'm a firm believer in as well, that a lot of people don't pay attention to, right? That trust factor, that trust factor that comes in there. And I tell people this all the time, no matter what you're going through, the biggest struggle that you will ever have is trusting yourself, right? Because most of us stay in survival mode so much that we trust to survive, right? We trust to do what we need to do in order to get through those days. And, and that's the way our brains are wired. We have to, I have to survive, right? In order for me to, to protect myself, to keep myself safe, I have to survive. And I say, no, if you can get past that, survival is a good thing, right? You know what I'm saying? It's how you remain to keep yourself safe. But the main thing is learning how to trust yourself. No matter what you go through in life, you have to trust yourself to do what is necessary for those moments that come about. And a lot of people don't understand this. Trust, just like how you bring people into your world, they have to earn your trust, but you have to earn theirs too. But now the question is, when are you going to earn the trust with yourself? Right? You know what I'm saying? When are you going to take the necessary, when are you going to take those steps and go, you know what? I trust myself. I trust myself to do what is necessary, right? For my well-being, for my mental fortitude, for my emotional stability, for my spiritual strength. I trust myself, even though I may not know what I want. I still trust myself. Earn that trust with yourself, and I want to get.
I want to thank you so much for bringing this word and this topic to this conversation, because the two books that I have about panic attacks have the word trust in the title, and it's for a reason. And the one that's coming this year is just trust. Because there is one of the wounds, like we talked about, it's about trauma and it's about losing things in your life and all those things. But there's also something that breaks inside. And one of those is trust. So the moment that you have situations that are difficult in your life, sometimes you lose trust in the people around you, in the people who are there for you, and yourself. Specifically, as you have panic attacks and you don't know how to navigate those, you don't trust yourself because it's like, whoa, this is happening to me. Like you said, I'm going into survival mode and I can't do anything about it. I can't control it. So there, that disconnect, it grows bigger and bigger. And so the way actually to heal yourself is to come back to yourself. However, it's not so easy. It's not just to say, I'm going to trust myself and that's it. I'm going to trust the world. I'm going to trust the universe. I'm going to trust God. Because as you know, and as some of us know, let's put it in a perspective that is a little bit more tangible. If your partner, your romantic partner, does something that is not in accordance to the relationship, would you go ahead and say, oh, it's okay, I'm going to trust again today. It's okay, I'm going to trust in you again. No. Most of the times, and I work with couples too in my private practice, most of the times, it's not even what happened that is the big deal. It's that the trust was lost. And we need to repair that. And in order to repair, first of all, we need to be willing to trust. Because if we're not willing, there's nothing to be done there. You need to first be willing. So again, I know I'm talking about romantic partners here, but hear it as if I was talking to yourself, a relationship with yourself. And so you need to first be willing to trust yourself again, or even explore the opportunity. Once that happens, you need to go into a whole repair situation, meaning you don't trust from day zero. You need to start with forgiveness first. You need to start to also get to know yourself, because I can't trust someone that I don't know, right? And who can say here, oh, I know myself 100%? No one can say that. I'm in that journey. I know that I know myself better now, better than I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but not there yet. And I'm sure it will continue my whole life. So it's about being open and willing to get to know yourself. Who is Sylvia? Who is Tony? And then you have to go through all stages as you were to do it with your partner. Not only is the getting to know you, is that I need to forgive you in order to trust you, but in order to forgive you, I need to see proof. I need to see that I can trust you. It's not about words. And same happens with our own relationship. I have to show up for myself every day so that my inner child, my little Sylvia, trusts me every single day. And I'm not perfect. And sometimes I forget about her. And sometimes I do things and I put her in situations that she goes, whoa, you told me you will never do that to me again. And then I have to go apologize and repair that. And the only way to repair is with actions. No matter how many times I can say to someone, oh, I'm going to be better. I'll be better. I will never do that to you again. Yeah, I need to see it. So the steps to trust have to do with acceptance, getting to know you, forgive yourself, and then showing up every single day with actions. So then trust can be rebuilt.
Yeah. And see, I love the fact that you brought that up, right? Because again, it's just like I said, trust is earned, even with myself, right? Trust is earned. And then one thing that I challenge myself with every day is growth, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be the same person I was yesterday, right? Because the person that I was yesterday has no place in where I am today, right? I've learned what I needed to learn. I've learned to let those days go. Moments, right? Even right now, like every moment that passes, I'm taking in information. I'm learning, so I can become a better version of myself, more of my authentic self, right? And look, I practice what I preach. Every time I learn something, I have to trust myself to use that knowledge, right? You know what I'm saying? To where not only is it going to be beneficial for me, but it adds value to other people that I
Mm.
may encounter, right? Because for one, right now, I'm a student. I'm a student in your world, right? And I'm taking all of that in, and I'm going, wow, I know that, you know what I'm saying? After this moment, when I leave off of here, I'm going to run across somebody that's going to need that knowledge that I've just obtained from Sylvia, right? And so, I'm a messenger, right? I'm a student, and then I become a messenger, right? For that, and then I let that moment go. A lot of people struggle with that, right? Because as you were speaking in the beginning, our brains are wired to keep us safe,
Mhm.
and I've come up with different tools to get myself out of that. I tell my mind, no, I don't need you to keep me safe.
Mhm.
I need you to be what I need you to be in these moments. I don't need you to shelter me from this over here. I want to go in there and understand it. So if that makes you uncomfortable, then get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this is,
Right.
this is what I tell my brain on a day, to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because we're going in it, right?
Mm.
We ain't running from it. We about to go straight in here because I need to be able to understand how I can be effective in these moments, not for me,
Mm.
but for these individuals that
Right.
I'm encountering, right? And so, it's like a phrase that David Goggins had, or says, you know what I'm saying? Put your mind into the fire, and you keep pounding on it. You build calluses on your mind on a day-to-day basis. It
Mm.
doesn't stop. And once you realize that every day that you go out into this world, you might want to callous your mind. You
Mm.
might want to build up, you know what I'm saying, build up that resilience inside of there, and go out into the world and act as if you own it. Because hell is just a figure of speech, but walk it like you own it, right?
Yeah.
And that way you can begin to look at that. Like for me, that inner child at 6 years old, when I know that he's about to be defensive, and go to him and go, not this time, man.
Mm.
Not this time. We're gonna walk. I need you to walk with me in
Mhm.
these moments, because I want to show you something. Like, I'm not gonna leave you, right? And that inner child understands that he can trust me to protect it, right?
Right.
But he also understands that, hey, what we're about to go through right now, it's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be fun. But I got your back. And I need to understand that you got mine too, right? You know what I'm saying? Because there's things that I may not know that you may know. So come on with me, right? You know what I'm saying? And when we go in not with the premise of wanting to destroy everything, but with the premise of, you know what? Everything that we learn is
Mm.
of benefit to us as a whole. And here's a theory. You let me know what you think about this, because anything that I approach with people, I don't look at people as in one thing. I break them down, right? You know what I'm saying? And from the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, right? And so, and then once you can understand how to heal those components right there, and then there may be extra components that you may want to add to it, but these are four that I've come up with. We can heal those parts right there, which benefits the person as a whole.
Mhm.
We can't begin to attack the person or attack what a person's going through until we, and again, what I'm saying, again, this is my thoughts, my theory on it, right? But healing is a multifaceted thing.
Yes.
I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yes. Yes. I want to go back to something that you said earlier before we go into this, and it's what you said about and I love this. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna borrow it with your permission. That I love that.
Too.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I love that. Um, and it's something that sometimes um, now it's talked more because we're learning so much now about the
Yeah.
brain and the nervous system, and the fact that how resilience is built is
Mm.
through getting a little uncomfortable. Again, not too uncomfortable to the point where you go into survival mode again, right? Um, but we have to go into, not always through the roses. It's important to build resilience into the brain and also to our nervous system. So I tell people about the window of tolerance, which is a great concept to me, because if you can learn what is your window of tolerance, but within that window of tolerance, take yourself to places,
Yeah.
go and discover and explore, and, push it a little bit, every time you can, just, push that boundary a little bit more until your range of feeling comfortable, as you said, grows and grows and grows every single time. um, to go back to what you just asked, yes, I believe that we have to address everything that we are in order to heal. We cannot just see the physical part. We cannot just see the mind, or the emotions or the spiritual and separately. I feel like it has to be the whole and also interconnected, because we are beings that, yes, we have different parts, but they're all interconnected. So
Mhm.
my emotions affect my physical, and my physical part affects my emotions, right? If I'm getting a toothache, I'm going to get upset, right? So the pain is triggering something in my emotions, and then the other way around. And also my spiritual part and my energetic
Mhm.
body also is involved with all of this. So I believe a lot in a holistic approach for everything, honestly, for depression, grief, anxiety, you name it. There has to be a way to see all your parts. And yes, we can go through, the one that needs our attention the most. So if it's a physical pain that you're going through, yes, it's important to address it first and give it attention. But let's not forget what's maybe behind that physical pain, because it could connect it to something else that is not on your physical body.
Right.
So I believe that it's important to see it that way.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that. And as you were speaking about that, I started thinking about the nervous system, and you know how I've managed. Again, when I speak about this, it's only from my own personal experience, right? I take the right. For me, I take the right supplements for me, right? I'm saying? I don't overdo it. Like I take my vitamins and things like that to help regulate myself. Especially, I'm a huge advocate for taking care of your organs, right? From your heart to your gut to your liver to your kidneys, all of these different things. Take care of these things, right? And have a balance, but don't overdo it. Don't let your body become dependent on it, right? But help your body understand how to produce it. You know what I'm saying? And the amounts that your body will need, right? Because just like anything, if you're taking vitamins, you have to be careful because your receptors can only hold with so much before it begins to spill over. And this is how I begin to associate, grief and trauma and addiction and things like that. If you're going to do something in excess, you have to remember that once it spills over into the body becomes dependent on it, right? Because now you're adding something into your system that may not be there, and your receptors can't push it where it needs to be, right? Just like anything, if you're struggling with high stress levels and things like that, your body is going to produce a certain amount of a hormone to help you
Mhm.
regulate it, right?
Right,
And
right.
and it's going to push it where it needs to be. Now think about this for a minute, right? It's just like having a cup, this cup of coffee. Tastes
Mhm.
good right now, right? You know what I'm saying? And you may think to yourself, like, wow, I can use another cup. And then you put that other cup in there. Now your receptors are like, I really don't know what to do with this, right? We're already full. So then it
Right.
goes into the body. You may experience yourself, you may experience jitters, shaking and things like that because the body doesn't know what to do with it. So now it's trapped inside of there and it's being pushed all through the body. And so, being someone who has made it my gift of grief, trauma, mental health, all of these different things. That's how I associated with it. It's like the body's response to your receptors not having enough room to push where you need those things, right, to help you in the healing process. And so again, breathing, breath work, breathe. Know when you've had enough of the coffee, right?
Mhm.
And allow your body to use what you've already put in there without
Right.
without overdoing it. Right? You
Right.
yourself, have gone through your fair share of grief in this world. Now, and so let's talk about that for a minute. How did you deal with that grief and helping regulate your nervous system moving as you begin to heal from that?
I have to say I did what I could.
Mm,
Um, and the reason why I say this is because I feel like I know it's going to sound crazy, but I feel like I've gotten better at grieving. So,
yes.
um, because, when I was 10 years old, and in one year, the same year, I lost my two grandfathers and an uncle who was like a father figure to me.
Mm,
Um, in the same year, all three, boom, right? But I was only 10 years old. So as a child, I did what I could in the moment. I cried. I feel like there's probably some grief that was stored for years after that
mhm,
because I didn't know how to do with it. Exactly what you just said about the cup. Sometimes the body's like, I don't know what to do with this. Okay, let's put it here in this corner, and later we're going to deal with it. And that's what happens in adulthood. A lot of things come up because of that. So by the time I was 27, and my best friend, who we grew up together, we were like sisters. We went to university together. We were roommates. We went to ballet together. Like it was basically, we were like attached to, each other, almost like twins. And she drowned. So it was nothing that no one was expecting, really. It was just something that one day she was there, one day she wasn't. In that moment, it was like my very first uh, experience like that. And I went through all the different stages. Uh, I remember that I realized at that point, the biggest lesson I had from that process was that grief, it's not linear.
yeah.
It's not. At that point, I was already a psychologist. I had already a private practice. And I remember knowing the theory, right? The theory that tells us, well, you go through like the shock, then you get angry, then you negotiate, then the sadness, then the acceptance. That's the whole cycle, the whole, process of grief. And I remember going through all of it in different moments. I remember like feeling one day like I have accepted it and thinking, yes, she's not here anymore. And then the next day, I was back in denial. I was back and like, nope, she's on the trip. I'm going to see her soon. This is not true. And then the next day I would jump to like being angry. How could she do this? How could she go to that beach and be so, this and that? And then I would jump again to the acceptance. And I'd be like, no, it's okay. I know she's okay. I know we're going to get through this, blah, blah, blah. And then it was crazy. I realized the theory is one thing, and the reality and the experience is another. So that
Mm-hmm.
was my first lesson from that experience. And I had enough tools to allow myself to go through all of the stages. Um, but it was difficult. I have to say it took me a long time, more than 2 years. The first year was the hardest, and the way I coped, perhaps again, like I see it now, not the best. I just went in completely into working mode, and
Mm-hmm.
I went into just basically, I became a workaholic. because again, my body didn't have all the resources. So let's do this to help us get through, right?
Mhm.
By the time my cousins died, one died 2 years ago and the other one died just a year ago, both of cancer, both in their 40s, one 40, the other one 42. By the time that happened, I had all the lessons from that other experience. Okay, this is not going to be a linear process. I have to allow myself to feel what I need to feel, not
Mhm.
push it down, not go into working crazy mode. Be there for myself, hold myself, ask for help when I need to ask for help. And so those two processes that I went through were so much different. And even the last one that was a year ago, I have to say it's painful. But at the same time, Tony, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful because again, like all those lessons and all those resources and tools that I have now allow me to live that process of her leaving her body in such a different way. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to say that I didn't cry. Of course, sometimes I still do. I still think of her and I go, oh, I wish she was here. But at the same time, because I allowed myself to do all that I needed to do, to feel the things, and I was there for myself, it also passed quicker. So it's very interesting that the first big process that I had lasted for a couple of years, like the core of it, and the other ones were just a few months, because I had the again the tools and the knowledge to make it very differently. So there is no right or wrong way. I want to clarify this. There is no right or wrong way to go through a grieving process, and each process is different too.
Mhm.
Even if you had gone through it many, many times, it's very different each time. But I want to say that it doesn't have to be this horrible, painful experience that is going to completely destroy your life. I don't believe it has to be that way. I think that it can be a very beautiful moment of your life, that it can actually bring and expand other things.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because while you was talking about that, I was going, you know, and I want to add to, the pillars of grief, right? Because a lot of people don't understand this neither, right? They think that the five pillars of grief is just the way that grief is supposed to be. As someone who's in the grief field, I would tell you it's so much more than that, right? You know what I'm saying? Did you ever at some point try to add to that? Right, to those pillars, like say for instance, the anger, right? You know what I'm saying? Do you ever dive and really think about that for a minute? Like there's so many other things that associate with that anger, right? You know what I'm saying? So being flabbergasted, and all of these different things. Like so, what I came to understand is that I had to learn how to articulate honestly what I was feeling.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? And as being a man, anger, I found it, when I put it all together, it was like, wow, that's the way I'm crying. That's the way I shed tears. So if this is what I'm doing in anger, let me just really begin to break this down, right? And I realized that in that stage of anger, there was probably another 10, 15 things that I added to it, right? And I became aware of those things. Even in bargaining, what am I bargaining for, right? And so I realized that there was another 10, 15 different emotions that came along with that. And I began to break, I just began to put it all, I had those five pillars, but then I added to them, right? And helped me understand it a little bit more. But also what it did, it gave me a vocabulary to go along with it, right? And I could go, oh no, right here, although what you're seeing is anger, but that's not what I'm feeling, right? This is what I'm feeling right now. And it helped so much. And so when I educate people about that, I have to often remind them that these 5 pillars that you're thinking about, the 5 stages of grief that you're thinking about, were written for people who were going through terminal illness. They were written. They were written for people who were going through terminal cancer, right? You know what I'm saying? All of these different things, and it wasn't established, you know what I'm saying, from people who were actually experienced that. There were people who were experiencing the illness.
Right.
So we have to, even though you can use it however you want to, but like, don't be afraid to add to it, right? That's what it's. As you said, it's not linear, right? You know what I'm saying? There's no right or wrong way to do it. You're going to do it the way that you need to do it, period, right? And so I had somebody tell me one time, they was like, yeah, man, I watched my friend go through this and I took the shovel away from him. I said, no, don't do that. Because what you're doing is stopping their process. They was like, well, you can watch them do that. Then don't watch them. Remove yourself from the situation, right? I understand that you care right now, but what you're doing is that you're taking away from their story. No, give them back the shovel. Let them dig that hole, right? You know what I'm saying? Because eventually they have to reach their version of rock bottom before they actually want to ask for help. And I said, right, here you go right ahead. I'm gonna watch you dig that hole, and then when you get to a certain point and you tired and everything else, I'm gonna look down on you and go, hey, I got a rope up here whenever you get ready. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put the rope right here, but I'm jumping down there with you.
No.
Well, I don't. No, you don't understand. I've been here before. I know the way up, right? You know what I'm saying? I know the way up. So that's why I'm down here with you. And so that's what makes it, for me, that's what makes it so so much more worthwhile when I'm down in that hole with you, right? And watching you put the pieces back together, figuring it out, right? But also to let you know that you have a companion down here in this road, in this hole with you. That way, when you get back up, when we get up to the top and everything, you're gonna look back and go, man, that was crazy, right? That was right. You had to go through in order to get to where you are. Now, did you learn something on the way up here, right? You probably say, yeah, I learned. I don't want to go back down that hole no more. And during the course of time, this is what I tell people. You're going to experience your addiction.
Yeah.
You would lose everything that you have. You're going to mistreat yourself as well as you're going to mistreat other people because you may not know, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying there's going to be a whole bunch of anger. All of these pillars of grief that you're going through right now, you've just now added to everything that you're going through. Now tell me how you feel. And you're going to get there. You're going to go, wow, I can help somebody else. I can, just like yourself. Like as I'm saying, I'm thinking about you, Sylvia, and I'm going, she's been down to that bottom of that barrel before. She's figured it out, and she's had climbed herself out to become this amazing individual right now, to be able to, you know what I'm saying, not only be like, I'm the panic attack lady now, you know what I'm saying? And you own that, but like, no, you don't understand. There's a reason why I call myself this, right? There ain't too many things that you're going to experience that I did not experience, and all the things associated with it. Yeah, come let me talk to you for a minute, okay? Let's sit down here, I find that exciting. I do. I find that exciting because I'm like, yeah, people, reach out, please. You know what I'm saying? We got somebody for everybody out here.
Right? Exactly. And that, again, that's the beauty of pain. And I think we touched on this when we had our previous conversation in preparation for today. We touched on the fact that, and not that I want everyone to go through difficult things, right? I'm also a believer that we don't need to necessarily go through pain so we can grow. I don't think there is one thing is strictly connected to the other always. But if you do go through some pain in your life, if you happen to find yourself in a situation that it's difficult, nothing is more beautiful and healing than taking that and turn it into a gift and then sharing that with other people, because you are the person who is going to understand and support the people who are going through that better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, and I think we said this, if I'm going through a divorce, I'm not going to do it, but if I have to go through a divorce, I want to be supported by people that have gone through that tell
Right.
me, you know what, I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly what you, or if I lose a child. And that's why we have support groups of people, who are alcoholic, who support people who are going through that. And people who have lost their child create support groups for people who are just in that process of losing their child, and that's beautiful, because here is the place where you go, okay, these people completely understand me. I'm not the only one. And the people who have gone through that can do the alchemy. We talked about the word alchemy to transform all of that pain and all of those difficult situations and moments into gold, into pure gold for other people. So whatever it is that you're going through in your difficult situation, figure out how to turn that around and put it out in the world in a way that other people can can find you and can feel like, okay, I'm not the only one, right? um, so and same with grief. I love what you said. I just want to go back to that, because same with anxiety, whatever it is that you're going through, it's going to be unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
Grief is going to look different to all of us. And like I said, even my process with my cousin was different from my process with my friend and my other cousin, and it's normal to have that. And like you said, add whatever you need to add, because theory says one thing, and this is the moment when I realized psychology, it's not everything, and it doesn't know everything. Okay, theory is one thing, and then the experience, it's very different. So whatever it is that you need to add, or you need to name differently, or you need to do differently, please do it if you feel that that's going to help you and it's in balance. And I think we talked about the extremes that are point there. It's in balance and it's helping you, then do it. Please do it. And maybe you will find a better way and a better theory. Please do. We need that. Right?
And that's the beautiful part about it, right? Because had we not gone through our go through and grew in the areas that we have, we wouldn't have the experience that we have to be able to walk with other people, right? And I think that's what it's all about. It's the experience. It's how we dealt with it. It's the journey that we've had to take, the butt weapons that we've had to take along the way, right? And I think we talked about this before. When it comes down to that hurricane or that tornado of grief, it's there for you. It's not there for me. Now, what I can't go through there with you, right? And like I love this analogy, and people often think that I'm joking when I say this. I go, no, when you enter that thing, you're gonna go in there, your clothes are gonna be all nice and clean and carrying on. And I was like, and I'm just gonna wait along the side. So when I see you get kicked out of there and you rolling over and you got a bloody nose and everything, I'm gonna wipe your nose. But I'm gonna encourage you to go back in there, right? Because it's not done with you. If you
Right.
stop the process right now, trust me, somewhere down the line, you're gonna have to go back in there, right? And you're gonna have to get your butt whipped a little bit. And so, when you come out the second or third time, I, I'm telling you right now, your clothes will be battered and torn up and everything else. You're gonna have a few more scrapes on your head. You may come out looking like me with more grays in your beard or grays in your hair carried on. But when you come out the other end, when you come out the other end, and that storm has began to weaken,
Mm.
that's what the work is. You put in your time, you put in that work. I'm letting you know that every time you come through there, even though this journey that you're on is such a lonely one, I'm letting you know I'm still here throughout those integral parts when you need me the most, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just there at the end when you come out the other, because I'm excited to see who you are, who you become after all of that, the healing process that you've had to go through, right? Because everything that you're getting hit with is everything that you've had to go through in your whole entire life. Respect it, right? And it's going to give you what you need, right? Not everybody's going to come out and do the work that we do, right? You know what I'm saying? Most people are going to come out and go, man, you know what? I just want to be a better me after going through this,
Right.
for my family, or maybe for your friends. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they may find their purpose in all of this. That's the reason that, that's the purpose of it. That's the reason why you have to go through those things. It's meant to beat you up. It's meant to change you. It's taking away everything that you think there was a safety net, and it's letting you know that
Yeah.
it's right here, right, in order to develop this over here. And it's you may not understand it, and that's okay, right? And I
Mhm.
love the fact that, what I'm saying, when you brought this up, I started thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's important to find your tribe. And
Mhm.
being from a place where I did lose a child, my son passed away,
Right.
and I had, as a man and as a parent, there was a lot of shame and a lot of guilt that came along, right? Like, I have one job is to protect, and as a parent and as a man, I felt that I failed him because I couldn't protect him, and there was a lot of guilt that came along with that because I didn't know what other people were thinking about. Like, would trust him with somebody's kid. He just lost his. Like, all of these different things played on your mental, right?
Right.
And it beat me up pretty good, right? Because there was a shame that came along with that. Like, man, like, I had one job, and I couldn't even do that. So I felt like a failure, right? And it beat up on me, right? And I would tell you, and this is not to take away from nobody's pain or anything like that, because what you've experienced may be the worst thing that you've experienced. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yours, you have every right to feel that way. And coming from a place where I've experienced those multiple losses, like parents and sibling and friends and a son and grandparents and all of these different things, and having to go through those things, by far, even as I stand here today, sitting here, I would say child loss is probably the worst one I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Right, and it's been 9 years, and I still go through it.
Mm.
Right, there's times where I don't do well.
Right.
There are times where I'm sitting back and I'm just like, man, I really wish he was here right now. Right, he would have been 17 this year, and I often think to myself, like, what sort of man would he have become?
Mm.
The things I taught him, would he have became a better man than me? Because that's all I wanted him to do. I didn't want him to make the same mistakes that I did. So I was going to do everything I could to provide a good life. But now, don't get me wrong, I was going to let him go out there into the world and let the world beat up on him a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? But also, I was going to be like, I'm here if you need me, little man. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I wanted to be there for his first heartbreak.
Yeah.
I wanted to be there for, what I'm saying, the first time he graduated school. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I wanted to see him go off to college or even to the military, whatever, because he always wanted to go into the military. So I was like, man,
Mm.
I wonder if he would have been that,
Yeah.
right? And for those who got the chance to do that, man, like, I'm not gonna say I envy you, but I say, man, don't take anything for granted when it comes down to that, because you never know, the gifts that you're giving. Someone else is looking back there, looking at you, going, man, I wish I had that. Because
Mhm.
I do sit around sometimes and I go, man, I wish I had that. I really wish that I had the opportunity to do a lot of those things. I wish I still had the opportunity to call my mom and dad and be like, hey, you may
Right.
be struggling right now, right? Maybe even see my younger brother, because he always wanted to be a boxer. His name was Evander, so he was named after Evander Holyfield. And I wanted to see him grow up and become that boxer that it always inspired to be, right? And I don't get the chance to see all of that anymore.
Mm.
So I do sit back sometimes and go, man, what if? What if life had been a little different for me? But then I sit back and I go, no,
Mhm.
because I don't think I'd be the person that I am today had I
Right.
not had these things not have happened. And as crazy as it sounds, even in those darkest moments, I found the thing that helped that helped me become me, so I can become a better version of myself for others. And I found my purpose in servitude, right? And so, give me your thoughts on that before we begin to wrap this up. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that what you just said, because I think that that's the one of the last steps, if you want to call it that way, of trauma or grief or anxiety or whatever it is that you're going through right now. It's when you not only accept, but you reconcile with that. You reach a place of reconciliation with what happened to you, to the point of what you said. And I know that feeling. And we've talked about, if I had to go through that again, I'll go through that again, just so that I can be the person that I am today. Obviously, losing those people that we love so much is not easy. Going through panic attacks every day to the point that you can't leave your house, you feel like you die every day. It's not pretty.
Yeah, it's not easy.
However, yeah, but when you reach that place where you are completely in reconciliation with the experience, not only you accepted it, but you're grateful. You reach that place of gratitude even with what happened to you. Then it's like this peace comes, and then you're no longer afraid anymore of that experience. You no longer reject it. You no longer push it away, because you're in that point where you go and say, yeah, that was awful, but if I have to do that again, just so that I can be right here where I am and know the things that I know and feel the way that I feel today, I'll do it again. And I feel like that when I talk about panic attacks and also losing these women in my life. I think, well, if that's what it takes, I'll do it again. Now, I don't really want to put it out there so that it happens again, but you know what I mean? It's reaching that point of really honest gratitude for what happens in our life. It's just simple, honest gratitude. And that is such a high vibration emotion that it just lifts everything up. All the pain, all the sorrow, all the sadness, all the guilt, everything, the shame, everything. It can't go that far up. When you're up there in gratitude, it's just, oof, it's like what you said about the eagles the other day. They fly so high, then the other birds can get to them. So that gratitude to me does that. It just lifts you up so high that all the other thoughts and emotions and everything else, they can't reach you, because you're higher than that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, right? Because it's that high vibration that makes us who we are, right? To be able to do the things that we do. And most people may not understand that we find gratitude in those losses, through those struggles, through the panic attacks, through having to go through trauma. Most people will get stuck in that, right? You know what I'm saying? Because it's really hard to see the other side when you're in it. Yeah. When you're in it, that's when things are critical. That's when things are most important. That the steps that you take from that moment on, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to have many directions, and sometimes I had somebody tell this to me, and I said, no, I had to come back on. They said, throughout all the mistakes that you made, do you wish that you had taken other paths? I don't know, because no matter the paths that I've taken, I've ended up right where I needed to be. So who say, just because you see something, what I'm saying, and you may have said, what I'm saying, I wouldn't have done this or I wouldn't have done that, I still ended up right where I needed to be. So who's to say that I didn't take the path that I was supposed to take? It may, you see, what most people don't understand. They say, look, you could have taken a path that was a little bit easier, right? And I go, well, what makes you think I saw any other path? What makes you think that I saw the easier path? This may be the only path that I saw right here, right? And that's the one I had to go on, right? So just because you may see something may not be the same way that I see it. I'm giving no choice. And no matter just like yourself, right? You had to go through it. And you know what I'm saying? You went through it and look at it. What makes us say that the path that you've taken was the path, you know what I'm saying, was that you have multiple paths, that you had a choice. This might then give you no choice. It said, no, I need Sylvia to be the panic attack lady. Sylvia's gonna have to go through this over here. And our whole conversation, I never heard you say, man, I should have maybe taken that path over there. I never
Yeah.
heard you say that. I heard you say,
No.
I went through my go through, right?
Mm,
And I grew, and I don't regret not walking the path that I walked. I said,
mm,
man, there you go right there.
yeah.
There you go right there. This life never gave us a choice. This life said, you're going to go through this,
Mm,
and I'm going to show you something. Because inside of this, it's going to show you what's inside of you, your gift, your true gift in this world, your true purpose in this direction that you're going through right now. You know what I'm saying? And it makes you exceptional and amazing. That's what makes you who you are, right? And I'm just like you. I want to change the for the world. I want to change it. I could have done without the child loss. I could have did without that, right?
right.
Uh, but
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, um, I'm glad I had to go through it
Right.
because I struggled. I did my struggle so others don't have to.
Mm,
And so I think that's why we enjoy doing what we're doing. We like, hey, capitalize on my struggle, right? You know what I'm saying? I went through this so you don't have to struggle the way I did.
exactly.
We're
Yeah.
gonna get through this with love and communication and connection, just because I want to see you. I want to see who you become on the other side of yours, right?
Mm,
But willing to walk with you because I have a better understanding of what it may take for you to get through yours,
yeah.
right? And now with that being said, so man, I love speaking with you. I love the
Me
fact that
too.
we have great conversation together. And, I definitely look forward to having more, but I also understand that you have a day ahead of you as well. You know what I'm saying? Probably got some beautiful things out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, with that being said, tell people how they can find you.
Website would be the easiest thing. So just my name, sylviaaraya.com. And I'm on all the different socials. I have Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, you name it, all of the
Mhm.
things. So I'm all over, but I guess the easiest way would be just to go on my website. And right now, I'm also offering a free consultation session for anyone who would like to reach out and talk to me directly and see if there's any way that I can support them in whatever they're going through right now.
Yeah. And as soon as her information will be in the description below. So you guys will be able to go in there and know more about her. If you guys are just tuning in, I see you guys over there. Deborah Cherry, thank you for tuning in. Trini Boy, a lot of people on Instagram right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in and just having partaken in the conversation that we have. And as always, I always say that if you guys haven't already, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel. It's scrolling right there across the bottom, right? Briefly, let's talk about a podcast on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And also, reach out to Sylvia, right? You know what I'm saying? If you guys enjoyed this conversation, she has a lot more coming, right? You know what I'm saying? For you guys, we just barely scratched the surface, and that's the crazy part. We could talk forever.
For days.
For days, just about everything in general, and maybe, just maybe these conversations aren't for you right at the moment, but you may know somebody who can benefit from them. Do me a favor, share it with them, right? You know what I'm saying? Help us get the word out there. Help us reach more people. Help us normalize the conversations that we're having because they're important, right? You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing to be ashamed. That's why we do what we do. And with that being said, Sylvia, I want to say thank you for joining me today, for having this amazing conversation with me, taking us on your journey, sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Such an honor and a privilege. And I really hope that we can do this again and everything. Hold on. Before I let you go, where can people find your books?
Oh, Amazon. Yes.
Okay. Do you have your books with you so you can show people what to look for?
Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible salesperson. I do have them, but it's right behind the computer. I don't want to move things and shift things around. But I have right now. If you go on Amazon, I have 3 books, 2 in English, 1 in Spanish. The 2 in English, one is my very first book that I put out 12 years ago, and it's about panic attack. But that one, and it's going to get a revised edition this year. So hold hold it and wait until the new one comes out this year. And then the other one is about trauma and relationships. And so it talks a little bit of what we're talking here, getting to know yourself and how to align yourself with the romantic partner that you truly deserve.
Yeah. That is amazing. That is amazing. For everyone else, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for just hanging there with us and enjoying this conversation with us. And with that being said, you guys already know we're going to conclude this episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And thank you for being on my journey of bringing you guys daily shows. And we're going to continue to try to do this, right? And we're going to keep bringing resources. So, if you go back in and you want to see some more, guys, just make it real simple for yourself. Go ahead and subscribe, and we're gonna make sure that we keep bringing the content to you. And again, what I'm saying, thank to my guest today for this amazing conversation. And with that being said, guys, we're gonna conclude this. We're gonna see you guys in the next one. Enjoy your day, and yeah, peace.